What's going on, everyone? You're back with Jono for another quick math lesson. Today we're going to find an unknown angle using trigonometry if we've been given two side lengths. This is legitimately the easiest skill in trigonometry. You do not have to do any maths whatsoever. All you've got to use is one button on the calculator, and if you can do that, you'll get full marks guaranteed. The only thing that you have to remember is to label the sides and then pick the correct ratio and write out the equation. Once you've done that, you've done all the working that you need to show your teacher and we'll get full marks. So again, I always recommend just have SOHCAHTOA written on the top of each trig page you do and in an exam, just to make sure you're picking the right ratio every time and getting the correct number on the top and the bottom of the fraction. So for this example here, I'm going to label my two sides. This is opposite my angle of interest, and I have the hypotenuse as well. So if I've got O and H, that means I'm using sine. So that means my label and ratio are always done. The equation for this is that sine of the angle is equal to O divided by H, which is 6/17, and that's my equation done. The important fundamental part of this is that we want the angle by itself. We don't care what sine of the angle is. And once we understand that, we can see that all we've got to do is a one-step equation. Like any equation, to get rid of something we don't want, we just have to do the opposite operation on both sides of the equation, and it'll cancel out. You might be thinking, well, what's the opposite of sine? Lucky for us, on the calculator, there is a button called the inverse of sine, or the opposite of sine. As long as we hit that button, we get full marks. So if you hit shift sine on your calculator, what will pop up is sine with a little -1 up the top and then an open bracket. If you can find this, you've done it. Shift sine, always to find an angle. The way that I remember that is that the little -1 that pops up kind of looks like a degree button. You know, when you've got an angle and it's 30 degrees, it's got that degrees sitting on its shoulder. I like to think that the -1 is also sitting on the shoulder of sine, so that helps me remember that sine -1 is for angles, or for something that will have a degree in the answer. So if we look back at the problem that we've already done, we've got the sine of our angle is equal to 6/17. What you have to write down in order to get full marks or showing you're working is that if we do sine -1 to both sides, or the inverse of sine to both sides, it cancels out the sine on this side and then is applied to the other. What you've got to write out is that the angle is equal to sine -1, or the inverse of sine, brackets 6/17, or O over H. Type this into your calculator, exactly like that, and you'll get the answer of 21 degrees, and that's your final answer. It is important though that you do remember to put the degrees into your final answer, otherwise you might lose a mark. We're just going to look at one more example here, and you're going to see it's the exact same steps, even if we've got a different ratio. So we're going to label our two sides. We've got the opposite all the way over here, and the adjacent right next to it. That means we've got O and A, which has tan of our angle is equal to opposite, which is 12, over adjacent, which is 16. That's our three steps. And now all we have to do to get the angle by itself is hit that shift tan button and we'll get it correct. This means that the angle of interest is equal to tan -1 with 12/16 in the brackets. Once you throw that into your calculator, it'll give you the answer of 37 degrees, and then we're done. If you do have to put it to 2 decimal places, obviously do that, but usually these kind of questions do ask you to the nearest degree, and that's all we've got to do. I hope you found this helpful, and I'll see you guys later.